Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, my name is Tammy Ernest and I am a Longarm quilter, and here on my channel I like to share customer finishes as well as my own personal projects. So I hope you'll grab a cup of coffee or some hot tea and just sit down and have a chat with me. We're here in my sewing room, and I've got customer quilts and a little bit of my own personal sewing. So on the customer quilts, I'm going to share all the patterns, all the fabrics, as well as the pantographs that we chose for the quilts, and so you'll want to stay tuned for that. But I'm going to start off today with the Sew Sampler box. This is the April box that arrived just the other day, and I'm so excited about this box. This is a really fun one. So the theme for this box is Enchanted in April, and it's featuring a new designer called My Sew Quilty Life. And the designer's name is Heather Briggs, and My Sew Quilty Life is the name of her company. And so it is highlighting her brand new debut line, and it is soft and springy and feminine. You're gonna love it. Let me open this. I haven't opened the package yet. So here is a picture of Heather Briggs, My Sew Quilty Life, and look at this color palette. She has the soft melon colors, kind of a pinkish melon. Look at the gingham with the dainty little flowers in there. A yellow gingham as well. Not a gingham. Well, yeah, a yellow gingham with little flowers there. Then here's more of a neutral. And then the last one is a floral. Just gathering all those colors in one fabric. So there are 6 fat quarters in this bundle. Love the color line. So springy, so dainty, just love it. And then always in the box there's a pattern to go with the fabric line. And this is the cutest pattern. This is called Bobbin Blooms, and so those flowers are blooming right out of the bobbins. Now the only way to get this pattern is through the box. So you won't be able to get this, but it does use the 6 fat quarters. You are able to get the 6 fat quarters. And I'll show you another project that they can be used on. So this is just adorable, 42 by 46, and it has all 8 spools, each one with a flower blooming from it. Fat Quarter Shop does sell a finishing kit for this. Love this. This is just adorable. Very cute. Now also in the box, they have been doing this lately too, where they include a second project that you can use the fat quarters on. Well, one thing they do is on the back of the card, they share a pattern, a free download. There's a QR code that you can scan, and it also will use the 6 fat quarters, so a different option. But then also this month they include, this is a crafty clutch, Quilt As You Go. This is by June Taylor, and this has the interfacing where you sew, the lines are on the interfacing, so you, your directions are right on the interfacing, you sew right on the interfacing, the lines are marked, and you can use the 6 fat quarters from that bundle, or whatever, you know, if you have 6 fat quarters, you can purchase the kit, and then you can create your own bag using whatever fabrics that you want. The zipper is included in this that is needed, and obviously the stabilizer is there. And there's a video link in the pattern that gives you step-by-step instructions. So the bag on this is an 8 by 6 by 4. This would make a great makeup bag, a great binding bag, anything small like that. Put your toiletries in to travel. You know, how cute would that be? You could make several of them. These would be great to give as, if you're going on a retreat, to give as little gifts for your retreat mates or stocking stuffers at Christmas time. There's so many good uses for this. This is just really cute. And if you buy the kit, then all you have to do, I'm sure you have 6 fat quarters you could find in your stash, 6 coordinating fabrics that you could find in your stash to put that together. All right, let me show you what else. The next thing, this is so cute. This also goes along with My Sew Quilty Life. This is a needle minder, and it matches that cute quilt. Isn't that cute? Now what I do with these, a lot of times, they're needle minders, so you can put them, if you're a cross stitcher, you can put them on your, you know, if you have a board that you use, like a design board, if you use that for your cross stitching, and you can put a needle minder on either side. It's got the magnet on the back, And so it will magnetize to either side of your board, and then you can clip your needle to it. You can put it on your shirt and clip your needle to it. What I like to do with these is the guild that I'm a part of in my local area, my local guild, we're supposed to wear name tags to our guild. And so the little fabric name tag that I make, and I like to put these little needle minders on my tag or on the, do you know I didn't do the greatest job on my name tag, but I think it's fun. For the lanyard type part of it, I want to say I used one of those Moda, I think it's Moda, on some of their fat quarter bundles. They will have the tape measure type little canvas thing that they use to tie their fat quarters with, and so I used a couple of those and made my lanyard for my name tag, and then just embroidered my name on the name tag, and then I use needle minders on there. I just think it's cute. And so however you use, whether you collect them, put them on your hats. You know, the fishermen did that, right? On an apron, maybe if you wear an apron while you're sewing or something like that. But obviously a needle minder so you can use it to keep track of your needle as well. But just so cute. Okay, the next thing in the box is this cute journal. I love notebooks. I love, love, love notebooks. So let me get this open so you can see inside of it. I have way too many notebooks, but I even love the word notebook. I just think it's one of those words that just fascinates me the more you say it. I don't know, I'm really weird in that way. But I love this journal. It's like a rough canvas type of, it's a cloth cover. So it's got a good feel to it. It says "So Creative" on it. Another thing I love about this journal is I love notebooks that have the elastic built into the binder, and so you can, or to the notebook, so you can use it to close the notebook. You can also use it to mark your place in the notebook. So let's say you're on this page right here, you can mark it so you're always opening to that. Now inside here they have gridded paper and they also have lined paper. So every page, it's a grid paper on the left and it's a lined paper on the right. You could use this if you see quilt patterns while you are out. What I mean is like designs. Do you ever do this? Designs on floors or designs on tile work in a bathroom, and you can draw it out, sketch it out on one side, write your notes on the other way. Maybe you use this for church. I do carry a notebook, not as cute as this, but I do carry a notebook to church I use it for my quiet time and for church time, but so that I have everything chronological order. So like if I'm studying a passage during my quiet time, I'll have it listed, and then when I go to church, I take it and I go to the next page and write down my sermon notes and that kind of thing. So everything's in there, and then I use it just for prayer time and different things. So this would be a great one to use for church as well. Now I know it says "So Creative," but you can tell people at church that you're a crafty person. But what I can see, especially if you've got little ones that sit with you in church, I can see drawing on this side, doing your sermon notes on this side. I did that when my kids were little. They sat through church with us, and so when they were real little, not able to quite pay attention or do their own little thing during church, I would draw out the sermon, whatever it was, very simply, but whatever, whether the passage, whether it was a story or just something that I could kind of demonstrate what was being spoken. They were hearing the words, but then to put it into pictures. So I can even see this working really great for that, because you can draw on the gridded side, you can keep your notes on the other side, and how special would that be to have that? It's so funny when I open up my Bible in church, I'll have, there's so many pages that you kind of lose things at different times, and I'll open up my Bible, and there'll be a handprint where one of the little kids was sitting next to me in church, and I'll have outlined right on my Bible. Maybe you don't write in your Bible, but I do. And right on the Bible page, I'll have an outline of one of the little kids' handprints, and I'll have it dated and say what age they were. The other day I did one, opened up to something, and it was little Daniel's handprint. He was about 3 years old. And it was just, it's so precious. I hate to change Bibles for that fact because I got so many notes. But I digress. Anyway, a great notebook. I love these. These again would be great gifts for friends. If you're going to a retreat or something like that. I like this. I think this is the only color they have. I did not see any other colors, but it's a nice one. Love the quilt block on the front as well. So you might want to get a hold of one of those. Now, the last thing in the box I am so excited about. Let me set this down so I can have my hands free. As you recall from last month, we finished up the pressed flowers quilt along. I have all my blocks done. I showed you the finishing instructions that came in last month's box, and I'm still trying to figure out what colors to use for mine. I think what I'm going to do is put a picture in my in Quilt Circle, my online membership, and ask their opinion of it, because I switched up the colors from what was called for, and so now I'm a little stumped on what colors to use for my finishing. But because we finished that last month, that means that this month starts a new quilt along, and this was announced in this box. I kind of had a hint because I had seen pictures on the Fat Quarter Shop of what it was going to be like, but this month kicks off the Peaceful Baskets quilt along, and here is a picture of the first block. And if you notice the fabric line, this is Shoreline by Camille Ross Kelly. So the blues and the greens, classic Camille Ross Kelly colors. It is so pretty. And then the baskets on top of that, this is just going to be darling. So these are pretty large blocks. The blocks finish 17.5 square unfinished, so they'll be 17 once they're in the quilt. So these are going to be nice big blocks. They're going to be a lot of fun to put together. And I am so excited that I love this fabric line. I have not bought any of this fabric line yet. So I went ahead and purchased the fabric kit, and it should be arriving tomorrow. So I'm sorry that it's not here in time to show you, but I will hopefully next week show you that, or maybe I'll have my first block done and I'll be able to show you that next time. So I bought the complete quilt kit. You do need to buy, so when you buy the quilt kit, it comes with the finishing instructions in that box. So I don't have to wait until the 12th month of this quilt along to get the finishing instructions. Now, the instructions for each block will still come out in the Sew Sampler box, so I do have to do it that way. So if you're not a member of the Sew Sampler box, maybe today would be a good day to join. You would need to purchase the first block pattern, and they do have those. Or if you don't want the whole Sew Sampler box, what I was getting at is you could order Sew Sampler box for the remainder, the next 12 months. That way you would get the pattern each month. You would need to buy the first one because the first one is in the April box, and there's no April boxes left. And then you could buy the quilt kit and go along with this. The other way you could do it is to buy the quilt kit and then just purchase the pattern each month as it's released onto the website. So there's PDF files that you can download for it, or you can purchase it and have it sent to you in a card just like I get. And then there's also a backing set, and I went ahead and purchased the backing set as well. It's a navy blue backing with the large floral, and I love that. I've quilted so many quilts that have that on there, or a similar fabric to that, and I just love it. I love it every time I do it. So I have purchased the kit and the backing, and can't wait for that to come tomorrow so that I can get started on this block. I'm super excited. Now, another little another little treat that came in the box was this cute sticker. Now, this is exclusive to the box as well, so there are some perks of being a part of the box. This is a picture of, not the first block, very similar to the first block, but kind of a representative of the color line of Shoreline. It says a Fat Quarter Shop, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with my sticker. This is my Mac, and I've never been a person that did this before. My son has a laptop, and he told me that too. He says, I was never one of those that was going to put stickers all over my laptop, but it's kind of fun. And so over the last year and a half, he's done that. And then I started collecting some stickers, and I decided I'm gonna just put them on my laptop because I'm gonna make it fun. So this sticker I actually have had for quite a long time. Love books is what this one is, love that one. This sticker and this sticker I got down at Crimson Tate. Crimson Tate is a local quilt store to me. I mean, she's in Indianapolis, which is about an hour drive, a little less than an hour drive for me. But she had these cute stickers in her shop, so I got those. This one is Lisa Bonji from Primitive Gatherings. This came in an order that I placed one time. So fun. This one right here is a Camille Roskelley sticker, and I ordered, last year I ordered her 4 new patterns that were coming out to go along with Shoreline. And this is the Edelweiss. If I remember correctly, this is the Edelweiss sticker. And so I put that on there. This one right here I received from the Circle platform because that's where I host my Quilt Circle membership. It's on the Circle platform. And that's the app and the website kind of thing that hosts all of that for me. And they sent me this nice sticker. It says, I love my community. So I put that on there. So now that I have the basket, where should I put it? I don't think I'll put it right next to this one because I want to, maybe up there, maybe over here. I don't want it right next to that one. No, maybe up there. So I don't know. I got light. You know, I can kind of see oranges and things over here, and this is more blue, so maybe I need to move a blue one over here and then find some colored stickers to go over there. So that's what I'm going to do with my little sticker. That's so fun. Just adding memories to something to make my laptop fun. So that's the April sampler box. Like I said, on the website as of the time of I'm filming, they do not have any boxes a la carte. So some of these products you can get separately, like the Fat Quarter Bundle, the journal, the needle minder is available, and the June Taylor pouch kit is available as well. Some other things aren't, the patterns and the stickers and things like that. But if you like any of one of those individual items, there are links down below that will take you straight to Fat Quarter Shop. Those are affiliate links, which just means that I earn a little bit of a commission from sending you there, but it doesn't increase your price at all. So no problem at all. If you don't want to use those links, you're not going to hurt my feelings at all. You can go to your favorite quilt store and find them there as well. A couple of those things are exclusive to Fat Quarter Shop right now, meaning other quilt stores will get them soon, but they were released to Fat Quarter Shop first and they have used them in the box. So that's how that works. All right, let's move on to some of my personal sewing. I've got just a little bit done. You may recognize this quilt top. I showed this quite a while ago. Sometime in 2023 I showed this. This is actually a project I'm working on for a friend. And this is all embroidered pillowcases, embroidered textiles, I want to say. These were done, Emily gave me all of these, and this was either done by her mom or her grandma, maybe her aunt thrown in there as well. She's got some sewing history in her past, not her particularly, but family members in the past. And so she has collected these embroidered textiles and doesn't want to get rid of them, obviously. Many of them are, some are embroidered, some that we have done in the past, like counted the stamped cross stitch, some of those there. And so she said, can we do something with this? And so I have put them together in this kit. No, I have put them together in this quilt, and I'm really liking it. I finally have the quilt top all together, and I have ordered backing for it. That's actually coming along with my Peaceful Baskets kit. I ordered backing for this as well. I went with a white on white backing, and I had thought about doing a floral, but I could not find this line anymore, and to be honest, I don't even remember what this line is. I'm going to have to go back to my video from last year, videos where I showed this, to even remember what this fabric line is. Because I couldn't find that right off the bat, I just went with a white on white. This is a feminine, soft, delicate quilt, and so the pinks in some of these colors are a little different, and I thought about pink, maybe a pink floral, and just decided the easiest thing to do without actually taking the quilt top along to a store with me was just to pick a white on white. So I'm excited for that to get here, and to use that on the backing. I'm hoping to have this on the long arm in the next week and be able to show it to you next week. I'm going to do some dainty pantographs, some swirly, flowery, something or other. I haven't picked it out yet, but something that's really going to complement it. So let me show you the pattern. And you may remember this from last year. This is a Carolyn Forster pattern. And Carolyn Forster is in the UK. So here is what, this was actually in a magazine. And todaysquilter.com, I had another client that had made this quilt that I had quilted hers. And I told her, at the time I had pieces of these, and I'm like, when I quilted the quilt for Marcia, I said, Marcia, I love that pattern. Where did you get that pattern? And she just gave me the pattern. She says, it was out of a magazine. I don't know. I've had it for a long time. I'm done with it, you know, so you can have it. So she gave me the pattern. This says todaysquilter.com. I do remember last year when we were, when I was showing this, that I had viewers send me information about how to get a hold of this pattern. And so I will link that down below once I find all that information again. But this is what the pattern looks like. So you're taking embroidered textiles, hand embroidered, or whether it's stamped cross stitch or embroidery of some way. And then you're making a block. Now let me show you the block, because I did a little bit different than it says. Okay. So this is the block. All right, so you have the center square, you've got some sashing, which is what I use for the floral, and then you have smaller squares out on each corner. You've got rectangles on either side. So do you see that? You can kind of see how it matches up here. So you can see this green one right here, and how a little piece of this is on the green square, a little piece of this is on the pink square, a little part. So this section right here is actually 4 different little squares, and they meet up at that point. So when I was doing this, when I first started the quilt, I was working in rows, and when I first started the quilt, that's the way I was cutting the textiles, is I was cutting a small square to fit in. So you can see a small, let me pull this in a little bit here. So here is one of those intersections. You can see I have a blue square here, a green floral, a pink floral, and then a green gingham. So right here in this square where those 4 match, originally I was cutting the textiles up into smaller squares. So you can see this one, this is just a small little yellow flower, sunflower of some sort. Now this one is a plain one. So not only was I using the parts of the pillowcases, I think it was mostly pillowcases. There were a few other textiles, but I can't remember off the top of my head, but mostly pillowcases. I know this one was from a card table topper. Can you see that one? So this one is clubs from cards, and so there were 4 of these. There's a heart somewhere, there's a spade, and I don't think I used all 4 of them, but this was a card table cover, so that when Emily said her mom or her grandma, when they played, I want to say bridge, when they would get together with their friends to play bridge, they would put this cover on the card table. How cute is that? And it had little ties on either corner. But obviously Emily wasn't going to use it anymore, so we used it in this. Anyway, so I was taking those pieces and I was cutting them into this small little square. Okay, and this one I was using the other parts of the pillowcase or the other parts of the tabletop or whatever it was. So in the blank parts of the pillowcase, I was still cutting those parts into squares. And so I had started getting these little squares, and I thought, well, wait a minute, because some of those designs I could fit in this whole big square. So I really began working on this quilt in rows instead of by blocks, because if there were portions of the pillowcase that I could cut in a larger square and put there, then that's what I did. So this one you can see I have an embroidered square here, this square is blank, and then here is a rectangle that I decided. I was starting to get smarter by that time, because you do need some smaller squares to fit in between the lattice work here. So like here is one where I did one square, and then a rectangle here. I was also concerned that I had enough to do the big squares, and then so I cut all of those first, and then was trying to piece out the small ones. the pattern has you cutting things apart through the middle of an embroidery. So these are pieces, especially with the pillowcase, you know, they were usually at the very bottom of the pillowcase, at the very edge. And so you can't get the whole thing, or you're going to use different parts of it. And that's the way this pattern is meant to be. You are cutting different things apart. So you can see in the picture again, do you see how you're cutting things apart? You're centering them as well as you can, but you're going to have you know, parts down at a lower part. You're going to have them in the middle, off to the side, but you're just using all of these up. And so especially when I got, here's the spade. Do you see the spade? Again, what I realized is this was supposed to have been a rectangle, a skinny rectangle here, another skinny rectangle here, and then you join the two together when you join the block together. Well, instead of doing that, I figured out the math so that I could make one rectangle and use it in between the two sashings. So again, I was working in rows and not by blocks per se. So then, let me show you some other blocks. This was a little, this right here says handkerchiefs. And what this one was like almost like a pouch kind of thing that you would, what it looked like to me is when you would hang clothes on the line, on your line outside, and you would have a place to put your clothespins inside of a little thing. That's what it kind of looked like, but it said handkerchiefs. So I don't know if it was meant for, if they were doing laundry, I don't know, to stick their handkerchiefs in there so they didn't get lost, or if it was just a place to keep them, whether they were the clean ones, whether they were dirty ones, I don't know, but it's really cute. Handkerchiefs is what it says. Then also you'll notice some blocks that have some crocheted edges. So a lot of the pillowcases had a crocheted edge on the edge, and it was so dainty and delicate, just beautiful. But I could not put the edge of the pillowcase into a block because I had to have something behind it. So what I did is I would take a square, again this was cut from the pillowcase, okay, and then I would take a strip of that piece of crocheted edge and I would lay it across the top of this block. I would stitch it down on this side, and I actually would stitch it down just a little bit in that crocheted part, just enough. Now remember, I use a scoop foot on my long arm, so when I put this on the long arm, that scoop foot will go right over that. It should not bump any of those up or flip them over. I will keep an eye on it to make sure, but with that scoop foot, it's really nice because it just glides over everything. So you'll see different parts in the quilt where I added some of these embroidered edges. See, there was pink ones. There were pink ones, and here's a green one. This was, you know, this is like a buttonhole or a blanket stitch along the edge. This is actually crocheted. I mean, just very, very dainty, just so nice. This one I'm going to have to stitch down because I did put this one along the edge, and you can see how it's sticking up, and this one I need to just run a stitch with white thread. You're not going to see it. Through the sewing machine, or I could even do it when it's on the long arm even. I really could. I could just stitch it. No. I wouldn't want to do it while it was on the long arm because then it would go all the way through to the batting, through the batting and the backing, and I don't want that. So I'll run this through my sewing machine before putting it on the long arm, and I'll just do a little stitch just to keep those things down. And then when I do the long arm over it, it'll all fill that in. Here's the diamond that I was talking about from that same table topper. Now look at this one. Isn't that adorable? So what this was on the very bottom of the pillowcase, and her dress is crocheted. Now I did put something behind it. On the pillowcase there wasn't, but I did put a layer behind this. And so this was crocheted, and then her dress was crocheted all around the edge of that pillowcase. It was just so cute. But Emily said, no, I can't save them that way. They're never going to be used. At least this way we can cut them apart, put them in a quilt, something that's going to be displayed and really nice. There were a couple others. This right here, these were his and her pillowcases, so I actually put these right in a very prominent place, right in the middle of the quilt. Here's hers, and then his is right next to it. So fun. So all different colors. I mean, some pieces, you know, you've got some bright oranges and yellows, a very 60-ish look. This is more of a linen fabric. There are different types of fabric. Look at this spinning wheel that was all embroidered on one pillowcase. this piece right here was part of a tablecloth, I want to say. It didn't have any embroidery on it from what I remember, but it was something that was memorable to Emily, and so she wanted part of that in the quilt. There's the heart. This piece right here was part of, this blue one was part of like a doily, so it was round. I don't remember anything in the middle of it, but all around the edges there were, it was crocheted edges, and so I chose part of that and put it on there as well. So this just turned out really, really nice. I like this. I believe I did it a little bit bigger than the pattern because I had some extras left. So I think the pattern is a square pattern, and I actually made mine longer than it is wide. I want to say, let me just look real quick. 1, 2, 3, it's 4 squares wide, but I think it's 5 squares long. So very, very cute. So, and you can just see just little, you know, fussy cut as much as I could. You got dainty little purple flowers there, and just a little bit of greenery there. This one was just little blue French knots that were across the edge of a pillowcase, and so I chose to put those there. Tried to incorporate as much as I could. Obviously this is a cross-stitched one. The bigger parts I put in the bigger squares, and then what was left I tried to separate out. Now this is another, so again, like I said, you know, here's just a blank block, and I wish I'd put something in there, but I didn't. And so you have those larger rectangles that are running vertical between the blocks, but you also have the ones that are running horizontal. And again, the block from the pattern would end right here. So this would have been a rectangle here and a rectangle here. You would have joined the two together. I did the math so I could figure out, I didn't want to cut this apart and then put it back together. That wasn't going to look right. So I just figured out the math so that I could cut a larger rectangle, keep the whole piece together, and then work in rows. I had this laid out on the table at one point. I had it laid out on our bed so that I could make sure those rows, I didn't mess anything up, because each one of these squares goes, you know, you've got, for it to look right, you've got to make sure the right squares are with the right parts. And so I had it all laid out, and then working in rows, not necessarily blocks, was a little more difficult because I had to make sure I had the right rows, but I liked the effect of leaving those larger squares together. So what I'm going to use for the binding is actually leftover strips, so it's going to be a scrappy binding all the way around, and with a white backing, and that, I think it's really going to be pretty. So get that on the long arm and then be able to show you that finish here very, very soon. Let's move on to some customer quilts. So this first one is Julie's quilt, and the first two quilts I have today are batik quilts. So if you're a batik lover, you're going to want to see these. So this pattern is called Paradise, and this is one of the Villa Rosa little cards that you can pick up at your quilt store. If your local quilt store doesn't have it, then you can. There is a link down below that goes straight to their website where you can buy one of the little cards. Only $2 for this pattern. This quilt measures 46 by 54. And Julie used batiks from Island Batiks called Naturescapes. So blues, a little bit of purple in there, and browns, and then she used the brown ones. This is all same yardage. So you can see the strips, the colored strips right here are all different colors, blues and some aquas, some greens and purples and browns. Then the connecting blocks, those are all the same. This is all the same yardage in every block. And then all of the sashing, you see the little bit of sashing right here, that is the same in every row as well. No border on the quilt, just finishes at the edge. And then the backing fabric, ooh, love the blue. Very calming, very pretty. I like that. Like the print on there. Very pretty. Then Julie asked to use a blue thread. So she said she wanted it to blend with the back but not be too obvious on the front. So the blue I used, this is Little Boy, and this is an Omni thread. Now to get the blue on the back as well, I did wind my own bobbins for this. For this size quilt, it took about 3 bobbins, I want to say. And my machine uses the M size bobbins, and my only downside of using my own bobbins, I wind them, I check the tension, no problem with that, but one of my pet peeves is with the preloaded or pre-wound bobbins that I use, I can look into my bobbin case and I can see whether there's thread still on there, because the sides, let me grab one of the pre-wound ones. So let me show you the difference here. So this is a pre-wound bobbin, all right? There are no sides on these because it's done by however they do it, I don't know, you know. There are no sides on it, so it's tight. You know, obviously it'll unwind if you pull on it, or if you leave it out, you'll have string everywhere, but there's no sides on it. This is a bobbin, this is one of them that I actually use, that's what was left of the third one. So I wind it myself, and notice obviously you have sides on it. It's the metal sides, because that's what's keeping the thread inside your bobbin when you're winding it. You have to have that. But when I put this into my long arm, into the bobbin case, I cannot see if there's any thread left on that at all. I cannot tell when I'm getting down on my bobbin thread. When this one goes into the bobbin case, you know, will come up to about here. You've got an opening. You can see the top part of your bobbin case is open right here. And so I can tell how much thread I have left on my bobbin, and I don't have to pull it out each time. So what I do is it depends on your pantograph, how dense it is, you can kind of get a feel for how much thread left on your bobbin, whether you're going to make it through another pass. Now I say that because a lot of times I will change out a bobbin because I don't want it to end in the middle of a row. Yes, I can tie off. Yes, most of the time it looks pretty good, you know, where you stop a thread and you have to start a new one. But it's actually just easier to pull that bobbin out if it's running low on thread and start a new one at the beginning of a pass, rather than, you know, come back to the machine or hear it stop, and it buzzes at me telling me it's out, and then I've got to pull out some threads and I've got to, you know, tack it down and start a new thread. So a lot of times I will just start a new bobbin at the beginning of the row. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes I misjudge how much is left on there. But with a pre-wound bobbin, I can kind of see, because it'll, you know, as it uses it up, it's getting closer and closer where I can't see much thread on that anymore. So like a couple of the quilts this week that I was working on, very small stitch path, and so it could go down pretty far. I knew that I had enough thread on there to get through that pass. Others that I was working on this week, the stitch path may have been, you know, a good 8 inches wide, 8 inches tall, and the width of the quilt. I know I need a lot of thread on that. And when I'm getting down there, if I think it's not quite going to work, then I will pull that out and put a new one in. So that's just the only thing I don't like using about my own bobbins is I can't see how much thread's on there. And so it just, not a big deal. It takes me a little bit longer to pull it out, check it, put it back in. But it's just nice that I can just take a peek underneath there and see how much thread I have left on my bobbin. So anyway, for Julie's quilt, I did wind my own bobbins, and I put the Little Boy, that's what it's called, Little Boy, on the bobbins. Used the same blue in the top as I did in the bobbin. And let me pull this in close so you can see the design. I like the effect. I don't always like colored thread on, and a lot of times will steer people away from colored thread. This one works. The blue blends really well with the top. I think it's a good accent to it. Doesn't take away from the quilt top at all. This quilt top is busy and bright. There's enough going on there that the blue blends in. You get in close, you can see it, and I think it's a really nice effect. Worked really well. And then the blue on the back, I love that back. I just think that's a very calming, peaceful back there. So the pantograph is called Leaflet, And because the quilt is so busy, it's going to be a little hard to see, but I think you can see it on there. Just a couple little leaves. I like the way this one did. So it's a little fancier than just a leaf, because maybe on the back, let me see. So you do have the leaf print, but then you have just a little bit of a bubble, not a bubble because it doesn't close completely, but it comes in, does a little bit of a swirl, and as it kicks out, then it makes the leaf print and then goes into another one. But just that little bit of the swirl at the edge of the leaf is a really nice effect. It nests really well together, the design does, so really nice. All right, let's move on to this batik quilt. This is Susan's quilt, and she took my advice that every quilt is worth finishing. She said this was a block of the month from 2006, and she said it's finally time to get it done. It's been hanging in her closet, she said. The blocks have been finished since 2007, and it's been on a hanger since 2010, so it was time to get it done. So the blocks, each one is different. It was a block of the month from So Biz, which is a store in Marion, Indiana. And so each block is different, purples, blues, greens, aquas, and then each one is bordered by a black sashing, and then, or a black border around each block, and then the blue sashing, that's all the same fabric. The bright cornerstones, you got some purples and some greens as your cornerstones here. Then a black border around the edge. Now this one just shows every piece of lint right now. So some very nice blocks. She did a really nice job. A good sampler. A lot of fun. For the backing fabric, she chose a purple batik. Very pretty. Like that. For this thread, she asked for a dark gray, and so I used the darkest gray that I had. I usually carry 3 shades of gray, a light, a medium, and a dark. I don't get to use the dark on a lot of quilts, really. But this one worked. It needed the dark. The whole tone of the quilt is dark, so the dark gray worked really well. I think you can see it. I love the texture it adds to this quilt top. So this one is a new one. This is called Citrine, C-I-T-R-I-N-E, Citrine. I'm not exactly sure how you say it. This is a new pantograph to me, and I saw this pantograph on a quilt in American Patchwork and Quilting. The latest magazine, there was a quilt in there that had this pantograph, and I loved it. I said, I need to find that one. So I went and found it and used it, and I like it. So very similar to others. I mean, there's only so many designs you can do, right? But the way you combine it together, so this one's got swirls, and it's got the feather part. Little different from any of the others that I have, and that's why I went ahead and purchased it. So it's similar in a lot of ways, but I like this one. I like, what do I like about it? Let me see. All right. So it's got 3 feathers here. Then it echoes that feather, and then it does 3 more feathers on top of that. Okay? Then, before it goes back down, then it comes over and does a swirl, and it's a chunky swirl. There's no points in it at all. So it's almost like a worm. And I hate to say a worm on a quilt, but that's what it kind of looks like, because it's chunky the whole way. There's no point. Even at the point here, there's no kick out point, there's no bubble shape, it's just like a worm laying there. So it comes in and does this swirl, then it comes out, let's see, that's the, oh, and then as it echoes that swirl, then it comes up here, it echoes, so here's one feather, here's the other feather that was sitting on top of that one. When the swirl kicks out, it comes up here, echoes that top feather, and does its own, then it starts over again. So it starts the one feather here, and then it goes up, does a feather here, and then over and does the swirl, and I like it. I like it. Very, very pretty. Very pretty. Like how it combines that one swirl, no points, it's all fluid, it's all chunky, it's all bubbly type. I really like it, especially because this batik had a lot of square, everything's very squarish, everything's very straight, and I like the fluid motion of this pantograph. A good, without adding swirls, without, you know what I mean, without adding circles. Just really dressed up the quilt. I really like it. All right, that's Susan's quilt. Let's move on to the next one. This quilt is very special. Last week I showed you a quilt that my mom had made and that I had finished long arming. Thank you for all the kind comments about that. Yes, she is a wonderful seamstress. She did a really, really nice job on that quilt, and so many of you really liked it. So this quilt was actually done by my great-grandmother. So my great-grandmother Pritchett died when I was 9 years old. I never remember her sewing. I do remember her crocheting, maybe knitting. I kind of think it was crocheting. She was one of those, we would go to her house, small little house, right near Speedway. She was right in Speedway, Indiana, so just a couple blocks away from the track, if you're familiar with the Indianapolis 500. So when we would go visit her, she had crocheted things everywhere. I want to say like on the back of the chair, if I'm remembering. I was 9 years old when she died, but on the back of chairs, I can remember even like maybe lampshades and different things, and I mean just all things. So my mom, I was asking my mom some more details about this quilt because I don't remember her as a quilter at all. So my mom said that she had several quilts by my grandmother and that she had received them down the line. She has since finished all of them except this one and passed those on to other family members so that everyone had a bit of the history. This was the last one that hadn't been done, and she said this one, you know, the fabrics were pretty good shape. Some of the edges were coming apart a little bit, and so she did add a border around the whole edge of it. You can see the border that was added by my mom, but all of the double wedding ring was done by my great-grandma. And she said Grandma Pritchett she was basically losing her eyesight, whether she had macular degeneration or something like that. You know, those things weren't known at that time, I guess, but she was suffering. She knew she was losing her eyesight, and so the piecing wasn't the best. But you also got to remember, especially for a double wedding ring, you're using paper cutouts, maybe cardboard templates. You're using scissors. There are no rotary cutters, no plastic templates. You're cutting, you know, you either had a newspaper template or some other of a heavier piece of paper using for your templates that you're using for all these. So I don't blame them at all for having, you know, piecing that's off. Double wedding ring is one of those. It's been hard to do in the modern age because it's a hard pattern to repeat using rotary cutters. And some people have tried. I know It's So Wonderful, is that the name of their company? They've got a really close one. Others have tried, but it's just one of those patterns that's hard to recreate if you're not doing the actual templates and you know, cutting that way. So it did have a lot of ripples in it. It had piecing that didn't match up. So there are quite a few tucks in different places. There was a lot of extra in some of the center sections, but it was worth finishing. It's worth finishing to have this history. And I asked my mom about the fabrics, and she said a lot of these, they're all clothing. They're all clothing. A lot of them were my grandpa's shirts, and she remembers some of them. Some of them were other, you can feel them. Some of them are cotton. Some of them are more of a denim or polyester. I don't see too many polyester. Some maybe, but you can just see all the different, there's not really a color scheme. It's just all thrown in there together. You've got reds with, you know, right next to green and pink polka dots. It's a little bit of everything. Some browns, some ginghams, just some solid purple and other polka dots. And it's just whatever she had, she was using. And but the history that's here is just so neat. My mom was telling me that my grandma had an old Singer machine, and that's what she was so proud of that, and she finished it, finished her projects on that. And I don't know that she did all of them on the sewing machine. I need to clarify some of that. I'm sure she did some by hand as well. So you're gonna know this isn't perfectly flat. Even when I laid it out to take pictures, you can kind of see some ripples in it, but it was worth finishing. So my mom just picked a muslin backing for it. And in deciding on a pantograph for this one, I went back to some pictures. I went back and looked just online for some pictures of double wedding ring quilts. What I found most often was that center section was done with some sort of a feather motif, where they would have done, a lot of times there was a special feather motif done in the middle, maybe some other quilting on the edges, or just, some X's across, something very simple in the wedding ring part, but mostly in the middle there was usually a pretty intricate feather design. So what I decided to do was do an all-over feather. This one is called Fancy Feathers. This is by the Longarm League, Jess Ziegler of the Longarm League. There's a shop on the Longarm League where you can download pantographs, and that's what I use. So you can see on the back, it is feathers that go every which way, that nest all together, and just make the fancy feathers is really what it is. So there's very tiny ones here in the middle. It branches out and gets bigger. Very tiny ones here. This actually stitches out in a diamond shape. So almost, I don't know if I can find it. Maybe like this, something like that. So it comes down in almost a diamond shape. So then your next row is going to fill in that next diamond shape and the next diamond. So it's a little off. They're off placed as it goes across. So you're doing, one here, one here, one here, and then your next row you're doing the ones that fit up inside that. So it nests really well together, but all fancy feathers. I just thought that was an appropriate finish to this one as a double wedding ring quilt. I really like the way this one turned out. Use a cream color thread. The muslin is a cream. These center portions were all cream, so the muslin and the cream really coordinate well together. It is pretty noticeable on the border, so you can really see the design there. So this one's going back to my mom, and she is going to bind it, and just love the history that is there. Like I said, I don't remember my grandma Pritchett sewing or quilting, so this is what was a joy to work on. All right, here are pictures of the next quilt. This is Jan's quilt, and don't you love this? I love, I said this before, but I love quilts when I lay out to take the pictures that as a design just pops up, and I really like this design. Some quilts you just have to get a little bit away from when you're up close to them. Really nice. I love the Ninepatch in the middle. It looks really nice, and then you get away from it, and wow, you can see the depth that's created by this quilt. Really cute. So Ninepatch Bento box. This is done by the Spruce Crafts, and if you look up their website, they have a lot more than just quilting. There were needle crafts, there were paper crafts, there were home deck crafts. I mean, it was a wealth of information, all different kind of things, stickers and all kinds of things like that. So a lot there. This is actually a blog tutorial, so no pattern is needed. They give all the directions right there. So they give all the fabric requirements, all of the directions, everything is there to show you how to do each block. Everything is all laid out, so you'll be able to do that with no problem at all. This quilt measures 60 by 75. The fabrics are from QT Fabrics, and it says Desiree from 2021. I wasn't necessarily able to find that, but I'm sure if you look that up, you'd be able to. If you notice, so this prints here inside the Ninepatch, these actually have gears and old timepieces on it. It's really a nice fabric. I like it. And even the orange right here has a little bit of gears in it. The yellow is more of just a mottled yellow. The white has what looks like cross stitches, like stamped cross stitch. Some are silver and some are gold, and that is actually the backing fabric as well. And it is, let me tell you, this is the backing fabric, which is the same as this white here. And when I trimmed the selvage, I saved it. So it says Bijo or Biso by Gazelle Rezavi of Figo Fabrics. So here, let you see that. I'll put this information down below too in case you can't see that. I like this. So when Jan brought me this quilt, she's local to me. When she brought me this quilt, she says, I want you to pick pantograph, whatever you want, whatever you feel. And so I'm asking her, you know, kind of, she wouldn't give me any information. She was kind of staying tight-lipped. She says, I want you to see what you think of it. So when I laid it out, I said, I see a masculine quilt here. And she said, great, because that's what I was intending. So she says, a lot of quilts I make are more feminine feeling, more for girls. And she goes, I wanted to make something that was a little more masculine. And I said, that's what I see, even without her telling me. So for the pantograph for this one, going off of the X's is kind of what I was looking at. I chose the one that's called Square Dance. So I used the same pantograph several weeks ago on the wall hanging that had the 9 barns on it. I loved it on that barn quilt. And this one, so the name is Square Dance, so you would think country or think barns. I think it works perfectly on this one. It adds almost that crosshatch type feel without being a crosshatch that you have to match up. Crosshatch is very, in my opinion, is very difficult to do on the long arm because every one of those points on a crosshatch has to be done. I think crosshatch is much easier to do on a domestic where you just follow the line, honestly. I think crosshatch is hard to do on a long arm. But this pantograph gives the feel of that crosshatch because you have the diagonal lines, but then it adds just that little square. So it's almost like wishbone, if you've seen wishbone, where it just goes up and loops and up and loops, and then you nest those together. 2 scoops is another one, very similar. It goes up, but it does like an ice cream cone topping on it, and then back down, and then does the ice cream cone. This is the same feel where you're coming up, but now instead of a loop or the ice cream top, we're actually making a square right there. And then it comes down, and you do a square down here, and all of like that. Then when you pull it in, your lines are going to be very far apart. So again, I decrease that space so that one of those squares is going up into the empty space of the one above it. And so that it goes right up into there. I try to keep my spacing very even. So I want it in close. You know, my squares here are not lined up. They're offset a little bit, which I think helps add that diagonal feel to the quilt. You've got the very diagonal feel, but they're not right across from each other. It would look different if you had the 2 squares lined up where they were right. They're actually diamonds. I mean, I guess it's a square shape set on point. So if you would bring those 2 squares where the 2 diamonds where the points are actually right next to each other, it's going to give a different look to the feel, or a different look to the quilt. So I like it being offset just a little bit. That way it kind of was down, it nested in a little more. If you have the 2 where they're going to be even, then it's going to give a different look to the pantograph, and you're going to have some empty space in here, and I'm not one that likes a whole lot of empty space. So let me show you the back. So you can see that white fabric, and with all of the X's on there, and I think the pantograph just adds a lot of texture. I really, really like this. And it stays with the masculine feel of the quilt. We didn't go with any circles, any loops, any soft feminine, just keeping it very squared off, but adding that second dimension where we're adding the diagonal on the diagonal. It was really nice. This is a white thread because the backing fabric is white. You know, there are some little darker fabrics in here, but with the white on the front, the white on the back, the white thread was the good choice for this one. So again, this one measures 60 by 75. This is a free tutorial, blog tutorial that you can go read and learn how to make this quilt. This would look great in all different colors, all different designs. Really fun. All right, here's the next one. Right, 3 more quilts today. This quilt is by Kelly, and this is another one of those that when you're in close, yeah, it looks nice. The piecing looks nice, the colors are nice, and it's when you lay it out that you get that effect. And I can see it on the camera, so I know you're seeing that effect of the white. The cream sashing on this just pops out when you see the whole picture. So the pattern for this one is called Pathways, and this is in Doug Leko's book called Stash-tastic 2. So you'll want to get that book because there are a lot of cute patterns in there. And so this is also using the Cadence line by Crystal Manning that is done for Moda. And I think when you look at, I've linked I'm sorry, I said Candace, it's Cadence. If you look up Cadence on Fat Quarter Shop, you're going to see all the different colors and you're going to think that's not the same fabric that she used in that. It is, and it looks so different because they're cut, these are probably 2.5-inch squares, I guess, because you have so many different fabrics, but they're cut small and it all blends really, really well. The fabrics look a lot different when you have them really big because you've got some pretty wild florals in some of those prints, and you're thinking, how does this all go together? But it does when you cut it a little smaller like this and everything is pieced together. So you've got some bright mustards. Here you've got some blues and melons and like a turquoise. You've got some turquoise, you've got some melon, and then you've got this blue. This blue is actually what's around the border, all around the edge. So she did besides the sashing, this is a solid sashing, a cream color. And then she did the same print that's in many places in the blocks is also in the skinny sashing, the red, and then this blue is a larger border. I want to say border, not sashing. So this red is a skinny border, and then the larger blue. I like the way that frames it. I like it giving a bit of a definition before you get to the blue. I really like that. So you can see the elongated squares there, all done with just, it looks like 2.5-inch squares. Some sashing. I just really like this. Really like this. This would work with so many different colors. You could do it primary colors. You could do it novelty fabrics. You could do kids colors or whatever. I just think this is really cute. The backing fabric is also from the Cadence line, and this is called Cadence Patchwork. So it looks, and this comes in what I can tell 2 different colorways. This is the indigo one. And there is also one, I'm going to say, I don't remember what the other one was. It's more of a red. It's like the red here. I don't remember what that one's called. But it's the red color here. So what I could see, there was 2 different colorways. So it looks like it's all patchwork together, a lot of the same. It's all the blue colors from the line that are put together in that. And this is 108-inch wide. Or it's at least a wide backing. I think it's 108-inch wide. So that's what she used on the backing. I really, really like this. So for the pantograph, she chose Soho. We used a cream color thread on this one. And I like the choice of Soho. Again, I've mentioned before, Soho is, if you don't know what to put on a quilt, put Soho, because it just goes with just about everything. This is very square, very boxy, but it doesn't have a floral feel, even though there are floral fabrics in it. It doesn't have an overly floral feel to it. So I think Soho was a great way to add in the circle or spiral dimension, but in a little more modern way. Again, Soho has the circle that comes in, but it kicks out that one little point before going into the next circle. I did these fairly large. I mean, probably like the end of my fist is the size of this one. And size, again, depends on this one. I didn't think it needed to be too small. You didn't want to go, as small as, these are 2.5-inch squares. The size of the quilt, I'm assuming they're 2.5, maybe 2 inches. And I don't want to make my Soho the same size as those. I either want to go larger or I want to go smaller. Smaller was going to be way too tight on a quilt like this. So going a little bit larger works really well. And I like it. Like the cream color fabric, or cream color thread just really blends in with all of it. A very nice quilt. And again, I love the design that pops out. This would be great on a bed, or something where you're going to see it as you walk into the room, because I think you really see the pattern. If this is one's just folded up on a shelf, you're not going to notice it so much. It really needs to be seen a little bit from a distance so that you can get that nice feel of the design in that quilt. Isn't that just so cool? I mean, I just love the secondary pattern. The sashing, you know, is this whole, you know, you've got the squares, but then you have this whole section of sashing that's also the squares. I like it. Really like it. Use up a lot of scraps. You could do this one all scrappy too. Really nice. All right, let's move on to another one. So this is another quilt I just fell in love with this week. Again, it needs to be seen from a distance so that you can get the bigger picture of what's going on in this quilt. And so you kind of saw that in the pictures. You may want to go back and look at those pictures again, because the secondary effects that are going on with this piecing is incredible. I love all the negative space, but this is the background fabric is a pattern fabric. So from a distance, it reads more of a cream color, but when you get in close, there's a nice reproduction type look to this quilt. So you have the larger stars that are created with all those half square triangle blocks, but then you get this secondary star right here with nothing in the middle of it. Do you see that? So, you know, you've got, what is it, nine of the large stars with some sort of a patchwork in the middle. The middle one is a churn dash block with a big red in the middle, very striking in the middle. Each one of the others is a little different, but then those where they meet up with the one next to it creates this next star that has nothing in it, and I just love it, love it, love it. So this is Sandy's quilt, and the pattern is called Carousel. This is by Primitive Gatherings. Now, Sandy said this comes in originally came as part of the quilt box that Primitive Gatherings has. So this again is a monthly subscription done by Lisa Bonjean up at Primitive Gatherings in Wisconsin. Their quilt box is a little different. It includes fabrics. I don't know that it includes any other notions or little things like the Fat Quarter Shop box does. But in reading the description, a lot of times what they do is they have an ongoing project. So you're actually receiving fabrics to work on a project. So kind of like a block of the month, but I don't know if you always know what you're working on. It may be more of a mystery. And I've never been a part of this box, so I don't know. And it's very intriguing to me. It looks like a lot of fun. So from what Sandy told me, she received all of the colored fabrics she received in the box, and then she ordered the background fabric, from what I understand. They do sell this as a kit, and I do believe they sell it with just these colored fabrics, and then you buy the background fabric separate, if I'm understanding the website correct. It is sold as a kit where you get the whole thing and the pattern, or you can just buy the pattern, or I believe it says that you can just buy the colored prints and then you pick your own background fabric. This is a large quilt. It measures, just a second. This measures 90 by 90, so it's a very large quilt. I just love it. It's all half square triangles. It's not hard piecing. I mean, except for your center squares on the 9 blocks. That's a little bit of a sampler type feel on those. This one has a very reproduction feel to me, and it could look different based on the fabrics that you put in it. But this one, especially with this background print, it's a little bit of a like a taupey on top of the cream, and so it does have a very reproduction type feel to it. And if you can see, let me pull up the bottom part here. All around the edges, there is a whole border all around the edges that is all half square triangles. Just adorable. And so there is, you can see right here, we've got some space between where the star ends and the border starts. So by adding that little bit of an extra, it gives your eye a rest pause before it goes on to the pieced border, and then again another rest or a pause at the edge of the quilt, so that you really give that pieced border a place. You know, it's set there. It's not just falling right into the binding or mixing in with the stars. It's giving it its own dimension right there. This would be really pretty with a binding on it, maybe even a scrappy binding, but something that really frames it. Love it. Love the stars. So pretty. The backing fabric she chose, this is also a Primitive Gatherings print. This is a wide backing done for Moda, and this is called Primitive Muslin. I love this backing fabric. I've used it several times in different quilts. There are different colors of it. This one, the color on this one is called Tallow, so it's kind of a mottled look to it. A cream and a beige, kind of very subtle but mixed in together. But it's more the feel of this backing fabric that I really like. It's a cool, a little satiny type feel to it. It just has a very cooling effect, even more so. I mean, there's just a different feel to it from the cottons here. I mean, I'm sure it's cotton or whatever. It's all done Primitive Gatherings. It's a Moda fabric, very high quality. I just like the feel. I love the way this Primitive Muslin stitches out. Every time I've used it lately, it stitches out very, very nicely. I really like this. I do not have an account with Moda, so I don't carry any of this, and my distributor doesn't carry Moda. I need to figure out how to do that so that I can get some Moda wide backings, because I'm just really, really liking this. So we used a cream color thread on this, and you can see the pantograph. Do you see this? I did another new one. So this is called Christie's Crop Circles. Now, this is Christy Dillon of My Creative Stitches. Now, I first saw this pantograph on Urban Elements. So if you're a digital long armer, you're going to understand what I'm saying. If not, just, you know, fast forward 30 seconds until I get through this. But I first saw this design on Urban Elements, and I actually purchased it and then realized it wasn't pulling into my software. The reason is because Urban Elements only sells it as a self-print pattern. So if you are a paper pantograph stitcher, where you put the paper behind on the back side of your machine, you'll be able to do this one that way, and you can order it from Urban Elements and print it out yourself. I needed a digital, so I realized that it was done by Christy Dillon of My Creative Stitches. If you go to her website, My Creative Stitches, then you can download the actual digital pattern, and so that's what I did. So I like this. So kind of a Baptist fan feel. In that, I guess it gives me a Baptist fan type of feel because it's cropped, which I've had other circles that are cropped, but other circles that I've had are more complete circles. This one I feel nests in kind of like a Baptist fan does, and I really like this. It's very, you know, your circles are very precise circles, but then it stops and does it's not a curve at the bottom of the circle. It is a straight line, if you can see that. So it curves in, straight line. And I may have this upside down. I think this is the way it well, I mean, the stitching out is going to be this way. So actually when you stitch this out, this one, it starts from the bottom and goes up like this. So it's like 3 circles that it's doing at a time. So you're going to start at the bottom of the pantograph, so make sure you have room in your throat space, both for where it's going to come down to and then how high it's going to go up. So I believe it was 3 circles when I was stitching this out. But they're cropped in together. So the circle, you've got your circle feel like the Baptist fan, but then the edges of it where it's meeting the circle underneath it are cut straight off, if that makes sense. So it doesn't curve around, it just stops and then goes back. I like this. So this is a cream color thread. That's what worked for the top, that worked for the back. I like this pantograph. I think it gives it a kind of a reproduction feel without being a Baptist fan. I talked one time about Kim Deal, how if you look at her books, how she does a pantograph that, and it's just a hand-guided pantograph where you come into the circle, you get into the middle, and then you just go across. This kind of gives me that same feel, and that it's a reproduction type look. Kind of. I mean, I just really, really like this. I sent Sandy several different designs, and she says, I kind of like the first two. And I said, well, if I have my choice, I'm going with the first one because I really like this pantograph, and I think it's going to be beautiful on this quilt. And I think it turned out really nice. So that's Sandy's quilt. Love this quilt. I may just have to get this pattern for myself. I'm in love. I think it's really great. So you can check out Lisa Bonjean's quilt box as well. I think it comes bi-monthly, not every month. And then she also has a wool box. She also has a cross-stitch box. There's lots of choices on the Primitive Gathering site as well. You'll want to go check all those things out also. And I have one more quilt to share with you today. And this one is a beautiful one too. So this is Janna's quilt, and this is a string quilt. So Janna's sister actually pieced this for her, but it's for Janna. And so this is a string quilt. This tutorial is on Quilty Love website. And so there's a whole tutorial. It's a blog post, gives you all the directions on how to do it. So absolutely free. You can go there and see how to do it. Now on Quilty Love, what she does, a little different from Lori Holt's pattern. Lori Holt also has a pattern for this, and so the two main differences between the two is Quilty Love she does this white strip across the center of the block to start with. So if you're unfamiliar, what a string quilt is you're starting with a base piece of fabric or interfacing or batting. You can use either one of those three. 10-inch square, 8-inch square, 6-inch square, whatever you want to start with. And you put a center piece down and you stitch that. And then you're putting another, so we'd start with the white one on top. At the same time, we're going to start with another color, and we would start with the blue. It would be on top of the white. We do a stitch down there, and then we press that one back. And then you join another color on top of that one, and you press that one back, and you're doing that in both ways. So obviously you need shorter and shorter strips. These are some varying strips in here, so some are a little wider, some are a little skinnier. On Quilty Love, she always starts with a white across the middle, and that gives you a little more dimension, a little more pattern to the quilt. It gives you that diagonal look. Instead of it all being scrappy, it kind of gives you a little more planned effect. Even though all of it is scrappy, all you're doing is adding that white. I like that. It creates that diagonal look across the quilt. Quilty Love, I believe her tutorial, at least what Becky did on Janna's quilt, was started with a piece of fabric. And so there was a white fabric on the back of this, and then all of the string parts were done on top of that white piece of fabric. Lori Holt has you use her interfacing. So you would use a 10-inch square, 8-inch square, whatever size of interfacing, and you're actually doing it to the interfacing. I've also quilted another one that actually used batting. So if you have square pieces of batting that you want to use, and then and you're actually attaching it to the batting. Now your batting is going to be a little flimsier, a little more, it's going to shift in things because it's got more stretch in it than either fabric does or than interfacing does. So you might just want to be a little careful with that. But so the main difference between Lori Holt and the Quilty Love one is Lori Holt uses the interfacing. Quilty Love is using the fabric behind it. Quilty Love uses this white across the middle. Lori Holt's don't do that. She just has you do all scrappy all over. So whichever one you prefer, or a little bit of both, you kind of pick and choose. Great way to use up fabrics. I love all the bright prints on this. Very, very pretty. This one is very large. It measures 96 by 102 because it does have that extra layer of fabric in there, and we used batting as well. Because that extra layer of fabric, it is very heavy. It's a very heavy quilt. And so just a great way to use scraps up though. I just think it's a beautiful quilt. Now I have to show you the backing of this quilt. this is my interpretation of the backing of this quilt. I think it's just adorable. So this is a pieced backing. We have a light blue on probably the top, probably top third of the quilt, I want to say. It's not exactly in half, but close. Then we have this pieced section across the middle, more of a middle blue, and then the bottom, the same print as the top, but it's done in the darker blue. So do you see the gradation there from the light blue to a medium blue to the dark blue? Now, if you notice this middle print, there is a little guy right here. Another section, there's a girl. There's a little girl. There's only 3 or 4 of them across the whole side of the quilt. So here's a little girl, okay? So I'm looking at this quilt, and even though this fabric right here, this is actually trees. You can see the tops of the trees. I believe this is from fabric that's done from the Giving Tree book, if you've ever read that book. That's what it kind of reminds me of. I don't know the fabric, but that's what I'm thinking it's hinting to, or it's created after. So you got this little guy sitting in a tree, you got the girl sitting in the tree over there. But by it being all blue, the way I look at this, to me this looks like water. It looks like this is the sky. It looks like this is like the top, you know, so many feet of water, and that this little boy has just jumped in. He's got his knees tucked up, so it almost looks like he's just done a big cannonball into the water, and almost like this is the water splashing up. Now I know it's really trees, but that's the way it looks to me. And the fabric looks very watery. To me, this kind of looks like sky because it's lighter blue. And then this is the middle section of, you know, the first so many feet, and then it's like the big, deep blue ocean all underneath there. I don't know if that's what Becky and Janna meant by the back of this, but that's what I just think this is really cool. I mean, how fun to make a quilt like that. Just really to think through this and to put that middle piece there, and I really like this. Just to tell a story on the back, and I think this is really cute. Really, really cute. All right, pantograph. The pantograph on this is knit 1, purl 2. So you can maybe see it in the dark blue a little better. So knit 1, purl 2. I love this pattern too. This is really easy one to stitch out. You can make it as large or small as you like. I have made this much smaller on big quilts, and I've made it much larger on big quilts. So whatever size you like, how much density you like. So knit 1, purl 2. So this is going to be backwards because you're looking at the back of the quilt. It's actually pointing, all of the knit 1, purl 2 pantograph points in one direction. So it has 4 loops. Those 4 loops are echoed. It echoes a 3rd time as it comes up, and then starts the next one and just progresses across the quilt. We did use a white thread on this one, especially we've got a big area of light blue here that's a lighter color, so it shows up some on the dark blue, but then with the white and the lighter prints on the front, that white just blends in really, really nicely, and I just think it's a beautiful quilt. It is a good heavy weighted quilt, and but it is going to be beautiful on a bed. 96 by 102, that's going to be a nice size to put on a bed, and a great way to use up scraps. These are novelty prints. I mean, everything, every novelty. There's Christmas fabric in here, pinks, greens, every color of the rainbow. There's Halloween fabric. I mean, it's everything, but because it's cut in such small strips, you're seeing color all over the entire quilt, and it all goes together really well. So, all right, that is all for this week. I hope you are making lots of time to quilt, and then I will see you back here next week, because every quilt is worth finishing. If you have a quilt that needs long arm quilted, my information is down below. I'd love to work with you, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.